Hello and welcome to Recharge and Rise. I'm so excited for you to be here and be in this conversation. So today I am joined with Kathryn. She is a women's coach and fitness expert. So she has oodles of experience, so over 26 years of experience in women's health and fitness. And she has a real passion for helping women fall in love with fitness and positive nutrition, and I'm so lucky to have shared many conversations, and anytime I hear any of the conversations, I can hear all this juicy goodness of information that she's constantly sharing with love and enthusiasm to other women that she's in communities with. So she has had a decade of leading fitness teams, and she's also launched her own fitness program, courses and coaching programs. So she's had her own challenging experiences with perimenopause, and therefore she's dedicated herself to supporting women through fitness and nutrition and mindset to really help guide them and support them through life's transitions. So Kathryn, it's an absolute pleasure to have this conversation. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Emma. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, you're so welcome. So I would love for you to share I know I've done a bit of an introduction, but your own story of how you got to where you are now and what inspires you to do what you do.
Wow. Well, like you said, I've been in the fitness industry now nearly 3 decades. I qualified when I was 18, many years ago, and my mum took me to an aerobics class when I was about 17, and I was like, Mum, I want to do that. It was as simple as that. And it was back when aerobics and step was really popular back in the 90s. And I really thought I wanted to go to drama school, but having mixed the fitness with an element of performing, which is what fitness instructing is really, I went down the route of being in fitness. And my career span over 10 years with a company called Fitness First. And I was lucky enough to lead teams in Southeast Asia and Australia, and of course in the UK, sales, operation, management. And came home after being overseas for 5 years, after being really homesick. Met my husband pretty quickly after coming back to Derby, children, and set up my own business. So ZestFit now is 15 years old, and it's been through so many chapters, very similar to me, really. And those chapters have brought me right now to midlife. I'm 48, slap bang in the middle of perimenopause. So I feel I can teach my lived experience with women in midlife who, it can be messy, it can be complicated, but it doesn't have to be. So I guess I've been through the newborn years, the toddler years, the postnatal fitness years, and the big teaching of all the big classes, and now I'm right here, and this feels a perfect time for me to be passionate about strength training and nutrition in midlife.
Yeah, amazing. What an experience and journey. And I love how you broke it down as well in terms of like chapters or seasons of life and how that's changed over the years. So for women in midlife, what's one of the most powerful things that they need to know right now?
Stop feeling guilty. I think when we're in midlife, what I find with a lot of my clientele or a lot of my coachees is they are juggling so many things. We're juggling, maybe children, career, business, staff, parents, siblings, friends, and it can be so overwhelming. And with that becomes a lot of guilt. And fitness and health tends to always be at the pecking order. So when, one of my clients wants to do a little bit of fresh air or a bit of a walk, it comes with an element of guilt. So my very first thing that I really want to say is there's no guilt when it comes to taking time out for yourself, to look after your own movement and your own nutrition. And it doesn't have to be for a long time, those moments of time to yourself. So yeah, I would say the first thing is just try not to be so hard on yourself.
Yeah, I think that will really resonate. And I see that as well in terms of mental health support. Well, lots of different types of support and anything to do with the self, really. So thank you for sharing that. So in the industry right now, there is a lot of new information around midlife and perimenopause and menopause. Are there any myths that you'd love to bust?
Do you know, it's a red hot topic right now. It really is. And there's so many things out there that can be confusing, but I'm going to just say it. Supplements, menopause supplements, burn the meno belly, you know, get thin around the midsection in 7 days with this magic pill. Nothing is needed in midlife, anything like any of those supplements. You can do it all just in the comfort of your own home or with the tools that you've got without spending loads of money on packaged, you know, supplements that may look like they're going to do the job, but they don't. So I would say supplements are a no-go.
That's really helpful to know. Is there anything else? Because you're right, it is a really hot topic right now, and there's a lot of information.
Oh, what else to it is challenging, you know, and it can be daunting, it can be messy, but really it doesn't have to be. You can make those changes with such easy baby steps. You really can. So even though at first it might think, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to be fit because my body aches, I'm not getting any sleep, you know, there really is light at the end of the tunnel. So never think this is the hardest phase of your life. This is a time that we are literally transitioning, stepping into our power. So it can be difficult, but once you're educated on the best way to look after yourself, it's really empowering.
Thank you for sharing that. And I love that you just mentioned about how it can be portrayed like doom years. I'm not saying that it is, but it's almost like it's going to be the hardest period of your life. And I'm really pleased that you've mentioned that it doesn't have to be. And from your own experience, because you mentioned about it actually can be really empowering, what have you found working with lots of women in this age group? What have you actually found? So what's some inspiring stories rather than that it's really hard and tough and challenging?
I've got so many great examples of women I've worked with over the years. And, you know, 8 years ago I hit 40 eight years ago. And, you know, it was one of them moments where I was confused. I didn't know what was going on. And I felt really like out of control with my symptoms, and you question your own confidence, your capabilities. And I see that now a lot in my women who come to me who feel like they're crippled with brain fog. And I've got one particular client called Cully, who is really high up in her career. She's absolutely trailblazing it in a very male dominated industry. And she had a surgical menopause, so she had a hysterectomy and was brought on with surgical menopause. She shared her story, so I know she won't mind because she's done me a big testimonial on this that I can share. And she really was, Emma, at rock bottom and didn't know what to do, didn't know which way to turn, was so capable in her career. And suddenly she just felt, oh my God, who am I? I can't think straight. I'm tired. All these symptoms, are taking over my body. And with some very slow training and some positive nutrition. And when I say positive nutrition, that basically means no restrictions, no dieting, no calorie counting, just really getting back to basics and eating the rainbow and having some gentle movement and taking it steady. We now are at a place where I think she loves exercise, and it's just part of what she does. It's just part of who she is, just like loading the dishwasher. And it has really now changed her life from really what was a traumatic time to now being in a phase of her life where she's over 50 just, and she's probably one of the fittest that she's been in a long, long time. And that's quite an extreme example because of obviously with surgery. But it really just goes to show what women can do with the right support and the right tools, to make this an exciting time.
And thank you for sharing that. So where do women start? So it starts with this baby steps you mentioned. What are those baby steps?
It's just the simple things. And I always say to a lot of my clientele, let's look at the basics. Let's look at the hydration. Let's look at the movement, the fresh air, the steps. Let's look at what are we eating on a daily basis, and then really start to look what else we can bring in. So small little habits. But the pillars, I would say, Emma, are your sleep is number one, because without a decent night's sleep, we are a nightmare. We're running on empty. We can't think straight. We're struggling with energy and with fatigue and brain fog. So it's got to be sleep, and it's got to be stress management. So really looking at how you can manage that stress, and everyone's different. So whether that's a little bit of fresh air, or whether that's some time out, to do some journaling or some reading. Positive nutrition. So look at your fiber, look at your fruit and veg, look at your protein. Protein is so important in midlife, and I call it the queen of micronutrients, because it really is the food source that we need so much in midlife, because it really helps along with the next one, which is strength training. So it's about doing some form of strength and resistance training along with some movement. And the reason why strength training is so important is because we are losing estrogen fast, and our bone density is at risk to osteoporosis. So we really need to look after our muscle. Muscle is the organ of longevity. That's really what we need in order for us to enjoy the long term. Being able to retire and walk in the Derbyshire Dales, or pick up our suitcase, our little hand luggage, and put it in the locker in the overhead compartment. Those little things that we know are going to be day-to-day tasks, but we don't want any assistance with. We want to be able to do it ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So that protein then and strength kind of goes hand in hand.
It's like a match made in heaven. Yeah.
Yeah. And just a little bit of my own experiences when managing fatigue. Absolutely, protein was a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
It was really obvious if I'd not eaten enough protein, that I couldn't sustain my energy.
It's so true. And, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be complicated. It can feel overwhelming when, maybe your trainer or you hearing it in the news, we've got to eat more protein. And just 3 simple tips to include more protein, I would say, is don't overcomplicate it. What have you got lying around? Eggs, Greek yogurt, hummus, protein powder, chicken, tuna. How can you add that into your 3 meals a day? So how can we add a little bit more into breakfast, lunch, and evening meal? And batch cook, or at least be prepared, so that then the next day, let's say tomorrow, I can take in some leftover chili for lunchtime, or I can be organised with some boiled eggs or some overnight oats. So, being prepared is one of those things that really helps us in a lot of ways, but certainly with our nutrition.
Yeah, well, especially if you don't have to think about. So imagine you have got fatigue and brain fog, even thinking about what you need to do for like your meals. So just having it there, absolutely, and having a source of protein that's easily accessible.
Absolutely. And that doesn't have to be rocket science. Is for breakfast you could have some Greek yogurt, with a load of fruit and berries, and just mix in some chia seeds and flax seeds. Lunch, scrambled egg and salmon, or scrambled egg avocado, or a big omelette, or chicken salad. And then your evening meal can be, spag bol, shepherd's pie, the usual family meals. So hopefully you're not cooking for everyone. You're cooking for everyone and everyone's enjoying it, rather than you're cooking so many different meals for everyone.
Yeah, thank you for that inspiration. It definitely made me think as well, when I've done this for myself, it's thinking, what else can I add to this that will provide me with protein or fibre?
Yeah.
So each meal, so you're already eating what you're used to eating, but with each dish, you're just adding maybe something or doing a swap.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on fibre there, so that's a perfect segue for me to talk about fibre. We should be in midlife having 30 grams of fibre a day. So between 20 and 30 grams is perfect, because again, with that drop of estrogen, we can be sluggish, we get this midsection weight gain, the body might slow down a little bit, and that fibre is so good to keep the bowels moving, keep us feeling fuller for longer. And the average female in the UK is probably only having about 12 grams of fibre. And again, that fibre is crucial to complement that protein. It's like, again, that perfect situation for the food groups to sit together. And fibre, again, can be those easy, quick wins, turn everything to wholemeal, fruit, veg, flax seeds, all what we spoke about, dried apricots, chickpeas, lentils, pulses, so many options that, again, we've probably got lying around, in the cupboards, and we can just up our protein that way. And that helps with the bloat, because I think one of the main symptoms that we suffer from in midlife is the bloat, which again is potentially not enough fibre or hydration.
Yeah, and as you're talking, I'm also thinking, clearly your gut is impacted by those things, but also it's impacted by sleep. It's also impacted by stress. So all these things do interlink. So when you was talking about, sleep and stress, of course that makes an impact to midlife symptoms, because they all work in partnership with each other, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's what we struggle with a lot within these perimenopause years, that sleep deprivation. It's an absolute killer, and typically as women at this age, we are in the height of our career. We've worked so hard to get to where we are. We're typically experts in our field, and suddenly, we're starting to feel like we're losing it. Oh my God, I'm forgetting people's names. I can't quite put my finger on what I was going to say. We're doing a presentation and we're not quite with it, and this is all due to that brain fog, and it is a real symptom. In the UK right now, the highest symptom in perimenopause, the most common symptom at the moment is brain fog. And brain fog can be helped with what you just talked about, that great night's sleep, great carbohydrate to help fuel our brain and our concentration, and stress management. It's not easy. It's easier said than done, but it really takes some effort to get these things into place. But what a difference it makes, to our mental energy as well as our physical energy.
Yeah. It made me think then in terms of brain fog. So I have experienced quite significant brain fog in my life.
Yeah.
So just in terms of context, it's something that I have experienced.
Yeah.
And one thing that I find really important, and it links to like protein and fibre, but also that having regular meals throughout a day. So many people that I, speak with, and I know might skip meals. So they might skip breakfast, they might skip lunch, or they might eat on the go. Yeah. And I know that when I'm imagining, and I guess I'm also asking your insight of this, the impact that does actually have on our body's functioning.
Yeah, I mean, carbohydrate is the only food source that fuels our brain. So when you think about we're skipping breakfast maybe and just having a black coffee, or we are skipping lunch and then we go straight into hold a board meeting, or we run a Teams coaching session, and you haven't quite got, the neurons firing, it's because we are underfueled, and that's why I like to say to a lot of my clients, you've got to fuel the body, fuel the brain, fuel the body with the good stuff that's really going to help you concentrate. Because you can see from firsthand, you skip a meal or you skip breakfast, suddenly you're like, I need something, and you just grab maybe a packet of crisp, a coffee, a can of Coke, a Twix, anything then to give you that little bit of quick energy, which then typically ends in that sugar crash, and you feel worse than what you did before you had it. And that protein is perfect because it stabilizes the blood sugar. So if you're having those regular 3 meals a day with them protein injections, it really helps keep you fuller for longer, keeps you concentrating, helps the muscle mass and the bone density, but more importantly, it helps with that brain and mental fatigue.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. I think it's really important. Also, it's making me also think about, so for people in midlife right now, there were certain lessons that were taught. So when you were learning about all of these things, so what I'm thinking is the exercise, the diets that were popular at that time. So I imagine that there's a bit of unlearning to do, and I know that I've had to do some myself. So I'd love to talk a little bit about that. What was typically around, we're talking about 80s, 90s, aren't we? So what was typical then that we've learned that doesn't serve us now in perimenopause and menopause?
Oh my God, Emma, I love talking about this because, most women will be listening to this and going, oh my God, yes, I was part of that 90s culture, the 90s diet culture, the 80s diet culture. We when it was popular or trendy to be a size 0, and Kate Moss and the supermodels were looking absolutely waif-like on the catwalk. So it was all about skinny, fat burn, cardio, and starving the body, and low fat as well. I mean, God, we went through all those diets which were low fat, the Atkins diet, the Cambridge diet. Oh, there's so many now. The Special K diet, the juice diet, everything that we tried to do to get a quick fix. And that's really now what I'm doing with a lot of women is unlearning that behavior, unpicking that behavior and going, right, that is not who we are now. Our body doesn't need that anymore. We now are in this place of midlife where our body is under a huge amount of stress with hormones declining, and perimenopause and menopause is extremely stressful on the body. So we really need to be fueling that body in the right way, and to talk to a client and tell her that it's okay to have eggs, it's okay to have wholemeal products, it's okay to eat 3 meals a day. Like, what? But are you sure? I'm not going to put weight on. And then when the penny drops and they're doing the right training and following that right nutrition advice, they really start to see a difference in their body shape. But I try now to encourage people that it's not always about the body shape, it's about how they feel, and it's about the long term. So that's taking some re-education because that's all we've known in the 90s and the 80s, the diet culture that is toxic.
And literally, and I'd own this for myself as well, and I would know many people because I've gone through the unlearning around this, but like low fat, like if I ate full fat, it was like, I've been taught for so many years that like it's bad to not have that. So then to eat things like avocado, for example, and again, there's many diets that, make that bad food. So, it's the fear then that the weight will come on, because obviously we've been taught a lot around restriction, but what you're actually saying, what you advocate for, is fueling your body well with what it needs. So we need those fats, the fibre, the protein. Is there any particular foods that, I know we don't really categorize, and I know you won't do in terms of good foods, bad foods, but are there any particular foods where you advocate from steering away from because of the impact that it has on hormones and health?
I would say processed food, highly processed food. So anything that is a microwave meal, or anything that is, potentially just a quick fix that would have been, that's okay once in a blue moon, of course, but anything that's, you look at the ingredients and it's like, oh my God, there's how many ingredients are on that packet. Anything that is just quick, easy, and is full of stabilizers and full of numbers, just stay away from, because you can whip up a really nice soup yourself, a sweet potato soup, for example, yourself, without having to put a great deal of effort into it, rather than buy a tin. So it would be the processed, stay away from those ultra processed foods. And I know it takes preparation. I know that people are busy, but once you get into that swing of slow cookers out, prepping, and organizing things on a Sunday evening or throughout for your lunches, it really does become just second nature.
Yeah. So it's starting to build those habits, isn't it?
Yeah. And go, okay, you know what? I'm going to try and make my own pea soup. Let's give it a go. And you get the ingredients together, and it's so easy. It's probably veg stock, peas, carrots, onions, done. Simmer, whiz it up.
Yeah, and I guess
and what's gone in that.
What's in it. That's exactly what I was just about to say. Yeah, thank you for that. Thanks for sharing. So let's go a little bit more so we've talked really about nutrition in this section, haven't we? Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about strength. So again, we're talking about people that are midlife, who have got used to, I was just going to say running around like but literally so much cardio, heart rate high, sweat factor up, doing HIIT, all of those different things. And actually you advocate for strength training. So can you talk a bit about resistance training, what that actually is, so what you can start with and why that is more beneficial for this time of life?
I mean, I want to make it clear, Emma, that cardio is so important. So this is not about not doing any cardio, but this is now making cardio your starter, your prawn cocktail, and your strength is now your steak and chips. So it's really now trying to shift the focus from one to the other. And I can't remember what you asked me. That's brain fog.
That's okay. I will say it again. So why then the strength? So we want the strength as a main. We want the resistance training as a main. But why?
So strength training, I mean, we are now in midlife probably losing 3 to 5% of muscle mass year on year. So by the time we're 30, our muscle mass is declining every year. And as we get to 40s, 50s, it's declining pretty quickly. 1 in 4 of us will fall globally. 1 in 4 will fall. And that is a pretty drastic statistic. Apple now have even put a fall alert on their phone so that it gets in touch with a loved one to say, someone in your loved one circle has fallen. So we really want to now try and make people stronger by not falling in the first place. And that is by bringing that strength training into place. So really looking at maintaining that muscle mass and stopping us from having these fractures.
Yeah, I guess also, I was just thinking then, it is a bit mind-blowing, 1 in 4.
1 in 4 will fall globally. It's crazy.
But our body is changing, our bones are changing. So, of course, and I'm sure I saw something you said recently about, your body, your muscle being your armour.
Yeah, you're like your life jacket.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
And
So sarcopenia is the medical term for basically age-related loss of muscle. Not only is it the loss of muscle, but it's the loss of strength and function. And sarcopenia starts to happen as we get older. And if you're not strength training, Emma, if you've done no resistance training, or body weight, so let me make that clear. Strength training doesn't always have to be with a dumbbell or a kettlebell or a barbell. You can do some resistance training just with your body weight. So you could do some squat holds or some body weight squats or some lunges, half press ups. This is all in the same camp. But as that becomes easier, we would love to progress. That's called progressive overload, which then starts to stimulate the muscle more. If we're not doing any of this resistance training or strength training, by the time we are 40, so think about all the cardio we may have done. We're cardio queens, steppers, treadmills, HIIT, insanity, all those things that we may have been doing. We get to 40 and we've not really done any of those strength training exercises. We potentially have a premature age of 65.
Quite shocking.
So if you think about it, maybe, it's icy outside, you slip, you fall, you break a collarbone. That affects your mobility, your mental health, your confidence going forward. If we have a strong core and a strong legs and we slip on that ice, we hopefully can stay upright and prevent a break, a fracture, and be not a statistic, not in a 1 in 4.
Yeah, it's the accumulation of those different things, isn't it? It's not just about the muscle itself.
And that's it.
And
not even
health,
gone into
which that has got a link as well.
Yeah,
hasn't it?
not even gone into osteoporosis or building the bones up to be stronger or the muscles. There's so much more to it. But equally, strength training will really equip us for, it will future-proof our body.
Yeah. Okay. So for anyone listening, and also I just want to be really clear as well, these strategies are also very, very helpful if you've not even, you're not anywhere near peri, because
absolutely
they're still helpful for our body, aren't they? And also one thing I know to be true is because the body in peri and menopause, like you said, there's so much more of an overload. It brings to our attention things that maybe we're already struggling with, but we were coping with because we had enough resilience. But then now we've got the overload. So actually, we probably was managing stress-wise or in our work, but now we've got brain fog to deal with.
Yeah.
Things are impacted, aren't they?
Yeah. So, and it's even more difficult to find that motivation, find that, that time, find that consistency, have that. You've almost got to coach yourself on the daily to say, okay, today's the day I'm going to do a little bit of movement, whatever that looks like, and going right back to what I said at the beginning, without any guilt. So if one day you're like, you know what, I'm bone tired, I just want to rest, that's okay. And in midlife, it really is one of the big takeaways that I want women to take away from today is that they must listen to their body, more importantly. And if one day you wake up and you go, I just want to rest, I always try and say, restore, not more. And then you can really enjoy your workout when you have the energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that leads us on very beautifully to the free gift, which is very kind of you to offer, because we know that doing these things with other people, with accountability, with support, really helps in motivation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So do you want to share what your free offering is, what your gift is?
Absolutely. So I've got an online fitness studio and it's got so many workouts in there, from 5 minutes to 30 minutes, and 7 days for free to jump on, have a little look around. There's plenty of workouts on there where you don't need anything. You could just literally press play and copy me with no equipment. And it's really a great way to just start your strength training or your movement journey. Just something to, again, add into your world. Excuse me. And I always say, you know, the magic of 10 minutes is wonderful. Never think, oh my God, I've got to do a 30-minute workout. 10 minutes, 5 minutes, something just to get the happy hormones going is enough. So I'll share the link with you, Emma, and it's open for people to have a little nosy.
Yeah, it will be below this video, so that's amazing. I'll also share with how, if you'd like to connect more with Kathryn, how you can go about doing that, really. So thank you so much for this conversation.
My pleasure. I hope that's helped a lot of women out there.
Yeah, definitely. And is there any final thoughts, anything else that you'd like to say before we finish? So is there anything we haven't covered that you're like, actually, this is a golden nugget?
A golden nugget. Yeah, well, that leads me into what I do like to say to a lot of companies I work with, or a lot of clients, that well-being, fitness, mindset is the golden thread that typically runs through successful organizations, or through successful through people's lives, really. And sometimes that is the only thing that's missing. Well, it is the thing that's missing, you know, the well-being element, the nutrition and the strength element. So it's really important that people don't take that for granted, that they do start to put their health at the top of the necessity ladder.
Yeah, it's amazing how we do live in a world where there's a lot of instant, and we might not think about actually what we could do now to really impact on our future. And this conversation is really illuminating that what we do now and choose to do with our health, nutrition, movement actually will have a very big impact on how mobile we are, how strong we are, how much we bounce back, quite literally, to those potential falls in our later life as well. So thank you for sharing that, but also clearly how those things impact our navigation of the extra pressure on our bodies of that perimenopause and menopause. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, my pleasure.
It's been a really, really great conversation. And then also just a reminder for those in the summit that you also have access to my free gift as well, which will be down below. That is to join me in an experience masterclass, which is where I will be sharing my freedom formula with you to really support you to feel unstuck and to really step into that life of balance, more fulfillment and more joy. So really excited to see you in that experience. So thank you very much for being here, Kathryn. Thank you for our guests for being here with us as well. And we will see you, well, at least I will see you in another video. So thank you very much. Bye for now.
Bye.